There is this argument I've been saying about MPPT charge controllers. Some people said it can convert excess voltage to current, while some people said no, it doesn't convert any excess to current. Now, let's take a look at the principle behind MPPT and see who's right or wrong. Now, MPPT works based on the protocol, or let me say topology of DC to DC converter. Now, what is a DC to DC converter? A DC to DC converter is an electronic circuit that can convert voltage from one level to another while maintaining power transfer, which means power in is equals power out, but voltage in is not equals voltage out. Remember, it converts voltage from one level to another, and likewise current in is not current out. Now let's say for instance we have 150 watts at the input of the converter, and let's say the 150 watts we're able to get it with these parameters 30 volts 5 amps to get 150 watts. Now at the output we are still going to have 150 watts, but the voltage and current might vary or will vary based on the demand of the user. So let's say me as the user, from my 150 watts at the output, I am desiring for 12 volts. So what this DC to DC converter will do is that it's going to step down that 30 volts that is coming from the input to my desired voltage, which in my case, let's say I'm desiring for 12 volts. So it's going to step down 30 volts to 12 volts, but it is going to increase the current to compensate so that the power I'm going to be having at the output is still going to be the same thing as the power I had at the input. So which means if I'm getting 12 volts now, it's going to increase the current from the proposed 5 amps at the input to 12 amps at the output for me. So that 12 volts multiplied by 12 amps will give me back my constant 150 watts that I had at the input. Now let's go back to the case of our MPPT charge controller. Assuming we are having 1200 watts at the input of the MPPT, so let's say this is how we got our 1200 watts. We have 300 volts by connecting a lot of panels in series. So 300 volts, 4 amps, which we now have 1200 watts at the input of the charge controller. Now at the output, this time around, it is the charge controller that is going to set the voltage at the output. Remember, which is the voltage at the output of the DC to DC converter. So the charge controller will set the voltage based on your battery. So it is the battery that will command the charge controller to pick the voltage. Now let's say you are using a 24 volt system. Now the charge controller settles for 24 volts, but then it increases the current to 50 amps, so that by the time 24 volts is multiplying 50, we are still going to be getting back our 1200 that we had at the input. Or let's say your system is a 48 volt system. So if your system is a 48 volt system, the MPPT will increase the current from 4 amps to 25 amps just to match that 1200 watts that we are supposed to get at the output. So in summary, regardless of your connection, an MPPT will always adjust the current at the output so that the output power will match the input power with respect to your battery voltage. So to answer that question or argument back, does MPPT convert voltage to current? Simply put, yes, an MPPT converts excess voltage to current.